If pressed to say which country has most thoroughly embraced technology in providing government services, how long would it be before you guessed Estonia? The tiny Baltic state, once viewed as amongst the poorest and most underdeveloped of the Soviet republics, is now a thriving European Union member state and viewed as a world leader in digital innovation. Toomas Hendrik Ilves was president of Estonia for a decade, from 2006 to 2016, and he joins us now on how his country made such progress. Nice to have you here.
No, it's good to be here.
Your story, and I do want to start with your story, is fascinating in as much as you weren't born in Estonia, you didn't grow up in Estonia, you didn't live in Estonia, you didn't have any particular attachment to Estonia.
Well,
not physical, but okay, emotional and intellectual.
my parents.
Your parents were from there, yes. But once communism collapsed, you see where I'm going with this, you heard the call and decided you needed to go back. How come?
Well, the president, then when we had our first democratic election after independence, he called me up and said, stop doing what you're doing and we need you here. And so I moved back, and then he made me ambassador to the US and Canada.
But you're born in Sweden and grew up in?
New Jersey.
New Jersey. So you gotta like Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah, I knew about Bruce Springsteen long before he became famous, yes. But, and I used to speak like Tony Soprano.
Can I hear some of that?
It's hard to get it back, but I can do it.
Very good. When the call came, presumably it would have been easy to say, I'm doing other things in life and I haven't got time for this right now. But why did you answer it?
Well, because I was working at Radio Free Europe and had been assisting the independence efforts for almost a decade, and had been advising the man who then became president when he was foreign minister. And since I was one of those Estonians who knew a lot about, relatively at least, about foreign affairs, I helped write his speeches and do other things when I was outside the country. And then he was elected, and then he called me up and said, okay, enough of this nice life in the West. Now it's time to come and put your money where your mouth is. And actually, I gave up all the money and
and did it anyway. In 2007, when you were the president, your country was cyber attacked. What happened?
Well, briefly, most sites were shut down in my country, websites. It's notable because any history from now until whenever that would be written of anything regarding cyber war, this would be the first case in which there was you were using digital means for against the country for political ends, and so.
What were the ends?
Well, to punish Estonia for moving a Soviet statue that was causing problems in the country, we moved it to a different place, but then there wasn't much you could do about. Preventing a sovereign country from making this decision, which by its democratically elected government, so they decided to show us what they're capable of.
Did you instantly know who was behind it?
Well, first, the real problem was we didn't know what was going on because simply you couldn't access anything. And the first thought is not this is a cyber attack. You're saying, something is wrong with our internet. And then, it was kind of obvious, this is, David Hume, if two things happen in close proximity, they must be related to one another. And we had moved the statue, and there were also some defacements of websites. And so you kind of figured it out.
You figured it. At any point, do you pick up the phone and call your Soviet counterpart, Russian counterpart, and say, what gives?
No, actually, it was the Western countries that were far more interested in what we're doing, and it was denied by Russia anyway. They said, we have nothing to do with that. But as soon as the Russians said, we don't have any, this is whatever your problem, has nothing to do with us. It's like all the other things that they've denied doing, so.
Given the unprecedented nature of the attack, how do you even know what the first thing you should do to respond is?
Well, now we know because we've gone through it once.
But the first time you hadn't.
The first time we had not really, we had actually done some gaming of a potential attack. before that. But I mean, there are many things you can do, and one of them is to set up sites abroad and mirror sites so that you can still access our country. And which we have later on advised other countries that have had similar results. And a year later, in 2008, there were cyber attacks against Georgia during the Georgian War, and so we helped them with setting up mirror sites, and so that if you wanted to access a page in Georgia, you would get it through our mirror site because you couldn't get it directly.
Did you ever think about counterattacking Russia?
No, we would consider that an act of war, and we don't think that that's something you do lightly.
Nathan Heller in The New Yorker described the nature of your country's digital capabilities today, having gone through all of that. I'm going to share that with our viewers here. Estonia is the most ambitious project in technological statecraft today, he writes, for it includes all members of the government and alters citizens' daily lives. The normal services that government is involved with, legislation, voting, education, justice, healthcare, banking, taxes, policing, and so on, have been digitally linked across one platform, wiring up the nation. This gets us into a discussion of X-Road. What is X-Road?
Well, technically for the geeks in the audience, it's a distributed data exchange layer, but it is how everything is connected up. All your, whatever entity, an agency, a ministry, service, they all keep their data in their own server, but in order to connect to something, you have to be verified or authenticated digitally with two-factor authentication, which is really the minimal you can use for secure communication. So we can access everything, but you have to do it securely. And again, what most people do and most governments do is use the old email address and a password. Unfortunately, those passwords are all brute force hackable eventually. But two-factor authentication, I mean, basically, those people who know what a YubiKey is, which for two-factor authentication, which you plug into your computer. Well, we've been doing that since 2001, and that's basically how it works.
How much of this did you know before the cyber attack in 2007?
Well, that part, I mean, I've been involved actually in the digitization of Estonia since '93, and I started promoting or pushing for the digitization, the computerization and connection of Estonian schools, which was actually completed by 1998. Basically, all schools were online and had computer labs. And actually, the system that we had, it's important to note, it was never breached. It was shut down, or you couldn't get access to it, but they never got in because it's very, very secure. Now, I mean, we knew that, in fact, it would be very hard for them to break in. What we didn't know was what would happen if someone tries to shut down the whole thing.
I am told that there are now only 3 occasions on which Estonians are essentially forced to interact with their government face-to-face, that so much of life now can happen digitally as a result of the measures you've taken. What are those 3 occasions?
Getting married. I mean, you have to go register. You can get married in church, but you still have to register your marriage. Getting divorced, that's a little more difficult. You have to show up, both of you, at the same time, the same place. And finally, which is of extreme relevance, I think, these days all over, from London to New York to Vancouver, BC, is that you cannot have anonymous shell companies buying real estate. And so if you're a company that wants to buy, if you're a person, we have to show up. But if you're a company, a member of the board has to show up because we want to know it's a real company with a real board. We know all these cases. I mean, even mafiosi buying, apartments in Trump Tower through fake companies. You find out later on it was a shell company that was actually owned by some very dubious people. And London is rife with these stories, and as I read the other day in Vancouver, there are similar stories. So, I mean, this is a problem. And so those are the 3 areas where we decided that, well, you can't, It's not enough to identify yourself digitally, but all the other things you can, if you identify yourself digitally, which is a secure, robust system that says you are you, well, then you can do it.
Is that to say that you have effectively eliminated bureaucracy in your country?
No, we still have bureaucracy. I mean, the first thing to note is that by law, everything, I mean, all the paper options must remain available. Though it is, in most cases, the 98% of the time, people prefer the digital one. But nonetheless, you must be able to do it with paper if you so desire. Certainly, bureaucracy is far more efficient because a lot of the things that people in bureaucracies do can be done much more efficiently in government. I mean, with computerization. So, I mean, if you think about what is governance, or I mean, you apply for something, so you go to someplace, fill out a form, it goes to one office, then it goes to another office, someone pulls out the file cabinet and looks if it's right, and then on and on and on, and you get all. Whereas a computer does that much better, much more quickly, and so that means that bureaucracy works much more efficiently.
Was this frightfully expensive to do?
Not really, and I would say one of the lessons that that we have learned, and which I sort of talk about wherever I go, and I do go to a lot of places talking about this, is that really the cost of technology is so dramatically decreased in the last 20 years. The real problems are you need the political will to do this, and then you need policies that you work out, and then you need to make the laws that underpin this, because the laws allow you to sign things digitally, for example, and then the real tough part is the regulatory part. How does it all work in terms legally? That's the challenge. The challenge is not in the technology. The costs are not in the technology. The costs are in politics.
My hunch, though, here in North America is that individual citizens would be much less inclined to trust their government with their private and personal information than maybe is the case in Estonia. Is that right?
What this has done for us is that what you call the government consists of the cabinet, but then there is the system. Mm-hmm. And the system you trust. I mean, it's not as if people like their politicians in Estonia or that they even trust them, but the system, it's kind of like you trust that the metro will show up on time, and you trust that the police will answer the phone when you.
Well, much of that in America today is called the deep state. You don't have those kinds of.
Well, we have
concerns?
Such a thin state that we're not really. I mean,
it's not that deep.
We're a very small country, and we don't. If in the U.S. or North America you have 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon in terms of how many, we probably have 1 degree of the equivalent.
That's pretty funny. Your country, though, is what, 1.3 million
Yep.
population? Okay, so what you've done clearly works for a country of that size. Could you take that template and put it over a country like Canada with 36 million people and have it work?
And the problem is not the size, actually. I mean, the system that we have has now been adopted by 15, or is in the process of being adopted by 15 countries. Because it's open source, non-proprietary, you can get it for free. You don't have to, we give it away. I used to call it foreign aid on a thumb drive. But really, the only problem that Canada has is, or you'd have to adapt the system because you have a federal system, whereas small countries, or even medium, even France, they are unitary states. So you have like 1 driver's license. You don't have an Ontario driver's license and a New Brunswick driver's license, but it's all one. And so figuring out how to do the competences digitally is tougher.
Well, it's even beyond that. I know, don't know how much you know about this, but we brought in a new system to pay public servants in this country called the Phoenix Pay System several years ago, and it has been an unmitigated disaster from day one. The idea was to get everybody paid by the same purse, essentially, rather than have a whole bunch of different paymasters over the course of government. It's going to take $1 billion and 10 years to fix this thing. Some people have still, all these years later, never been paid. Some people have been paid too much. Some people have been paid irregularly. It is the biggest dog's breakfast you can imagine. Did you have these kinds of growing pains when you tried to digitize your country?
Well, we had some glitches. I mean,
This is more than a glitch.
You always have some kind of glitch when you roll something out. Well, we managed to fix them pretty quickly. I don't know. I can't comment on your system, but it does seem a little odd that it would take that long a time to fix something. I mean, I would, if it's going to be 10 years, I would start over, frankly. But I don't want to interfere in your internal affairs.
Well, speaking of your internal affairs, how do you like the TV show Occupied?
I haven't seen it. I don't watch TV.
You haven't seen it? Okay, so for those who don't know, right, this is a Nordic TV show where there is tremendous concern about the Russians dropping in, and not for tea, but invading. Is there still considerable concern in Estonia that Mother Russia is not that far away and means business?
Well, we've had 28 years of saber-rattling threats that I think that we're not that concerned. And of course, after Crimea, people said, well, what happens if little green men show up in Estonia? To which our chief of defense said, we shoot them. That you can pull that off once. That was the element of surprise in Crimea. If you see an insignia-less military person carrying a weapon, people are not going to scratch their head and say, gee, is that a hunter? They're going to say, we know what that is. So I don't think that scenario would be followed again. And we really don't spend our time worrying about being invaded by Russia.
Okay, well, I don't mean to make mischief here, but one similarity would be, just as there is a significant ethnically Russian population in Ukraine, what percentage of Estonians would be ethnically Russian?
24?
That's a lot. Are ethnic Estonians concerned about them being a fifth column?
Well, maybe a few crazies, but generally, there's no reason to. I mean, the difference between Estonia and Ukraine is that in Ukraine, it's not in NATO. Ukraine is not in the European Union, and economically, they were not so well off. In my country, we are members of the EU and NATO, and your Russian babushka in Estonia gets a pension that is larger than the average wage in Russia. So, I mean, you don't have this desire, to rejoin the motherland. So I don't see that as a threat. I mean, I think, given that if you're a Russian in Estonia, Russia's always inviting you back. But no one's going because, in fact, you're in the European Union. You can work anywhere in the European Union. You can go study anywhere in the European Union. You can travel. You don't need a visa or anything. Whereas if you were in Russia, you'd have to line up in the Petersburg consulate and hope you can get a visa to go to. So people sort of, that is not an issue. I mean, it was 7 years ago when, the economic differences were fairly minor. That was, could have been an issue. Today, we're talking about a country that is probably has the highest GDP per capita of any post-communist country. It's by far the lowest level of corruption of any post-communist country. Has one of the freest presses of any country. So people don't really want to, they're not looking.
They like that.
It's kind of it's a very open society and it's a successful society.
Let's finish up on this. I have heard it said that if your country, and I'm not, again, trying to make trouble here, but if you were invaded, because all of your services are in the quote-unquote cloud, you could literally continue and run the government from wherever.
That's true.
That is true.
Yeah. Well, we after the Fukushima tsunami case, where Japan actually did lose a little bit of their income, their national data, as a small country, we said, first of all, our history is that for the past 1,000 years, we have been invaded on an average of twice a century. And the 20th century is really bad, in this regard. So what we did is actually appealing to the Vienna Convention on Extraterritoriality and Diplomatic Immunity. We set up the world's first data embassy. It is a server that has full diplomatic extraterritoriality and immunity, and it is connected 24/7, real-time, online, with all the critical national data. And so should that happen, we would have a virtual copy of the state. Again, Canada, I mean, I advise this, lots of countries do this, not because they can necessarily be invaded, but there are a lot of smaller countries that live in seismically active areas. I mean, Canada, you're lucky. You have all this space. So if you can do all this within the country. You can't do it in my country because we're too small. So we're the size of Denmark, right, or the Netherlands. But certainly I would, I mean, assume that Canada is keeping some copy of its data somewhere else.
I sure hope so. That'd be a good thing.
No.
Yeah. Mr. President, it was very good of you to spend so much time with us here on TVO tonight. Thank you so much, and I hope you've enjoyed your time here in Canada.
Oh, it's been great.
Thank you so much.
Great.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.